Hello and welcome back to ARK. I am Wolfie. And in this episode, just like the last two, I want to do something different. And if you did watch the last two, I hope you commented on what you liked about those characters and what you didn't like and what you could think. That did not make sense. What you may think could improve those characters to make them more interesting or appealing to you, and what you might think. Oh. Lag. Bummer. But what you could think, there, I said it again, a little slip, but what you think might make them funny in your opinion. Since they are brand new characters that I am trying to develop, I know those videos probably weren't the most funny. I got one or two laughs out of them when I was editing myself, but nothing too extravagant, so I know. But your comments would definitely help improve those characters so I can create and really flesh them out into being quite funny characters. But in this episode, I wanted to do something a bit different where I'm not editing as much. I'm more showing you guys every little thing that goes on in playing ARK. And like you can see right there, that is the Megalodon from the last episode. He is now level 112. As I was repairing my stuff and making pants, he got into a few fights and gained a couple levels from it, which is pretty cool. He looks to be a little bloody. I'm not quite sure if the mod is working because I kind of feel like he was bigger at one point, but whatever. If that's what a giant Megalodon is supposed to look like, well, cool. Also, another reason I don't think it's working is because I don't hear the music, and before I was hearing the music every time I walked near him. But then again, it could have just been updated, so who knows. You need to go closer, and I don't know if he's stuck, but I'm not venturing out because I still don't have all my gear back from the last several times I was killed. So I'm just gonna leave him there. He can fend for himself. I did pump his melee damage, so if he can't and he dies, well, then it's his own fault. Because there's no reason why he can't kill anything that comes across. And of course, we have our Stego. Still haven't named this Stego. She does need a name. I will have to work on that. That will be something I do. Just not right this moment. This moment, what I wanted to do was just basically talk about what's on my mind, rather than just do straight commenting on the game itself, but more so what has been on my mind over the past couple of days. And things that I've just encountered, learning my way around how YouTube works and stuff and things like that. Especially, flick the mouse. Especially when it comes to things like editing, which I find, since I've never really edited video before I started this YouTube channel, it was all new to me and just stuff that was foreign, I guess is a good word to use. Not something that I've come across before or ever needed to, which, you know, makes sense, because how often do you find yourself editing video on a regular basis just normally? It's like almost never, if ever, unless that's your job or you're here trying to make videos for YouTube. And with that being said, you know, it's all new territory for me. And it does lead me into talking about YouTube and how they just don't have a way to figure certain things out. And there's really, they do kind of have forums, but there's really no place you can go to get a straight answer. One that you can really feel confident in having that answer to. It just, there just isn't anything. And there's no one at YouTube that you can ask. They just don't have that system in place. And I think they should. But whatever, they don't. it sucks. So when you get stuck on something and you're just sitting there not sure how to proceed or what you're supposed to do, who do you end up asking? It's where do you go to find the answer you need to get over that little hurdle? It just, as a new player to the YouTube field, it leaves me puzzled as to where I go. And I found out recently about the Let's Play forum on Reddit, and I've been poking around there trying to figure out answers to certain little questions I have, and I've yet to ever get a single, well, with the exception of the first question I ever asked, none have ever been answered actually, which is frustrating because it ends up leaving me just even more frustrated than I already was, because it didn't answer the question I was trying to find the answer to. So I've come to realize that that place is not the place you ask advanced questions, unfortunately. So it just brings me back to, well, where do I get my information from? And there's some wikis, and you can poke around the forums, but aside from asking other YouTubers that have already dealt with similar issues and found answers themselves, there's really nowhere to get information from. It's a glaring omission by YouTube, and they just don't care. And the reason I bring this up is because I recently read a Twitter post from the CEO of YouTube saying that we're listening and we're here to help and improve things. But from what I'm discovering, a lot of these issues that I am having are issues that other YouTubers have been facing for quite a number of years now. And for me to come across the same similar issues and still not be able to find an answer after other YouTubers have been just struggling with these same issues for years, it just, if the CEO is going to say they're here to help and they're here to make things better, then why are these issues still coming up time and time again for people? That's a good question to ask her. And the problem of lack of communication still comes into play because there is no way to actually get a straight answer from her that isn't PR spin saying, we're trying. If you were trying, you would have already fixed it. It's as simple as that. I can't make cooked jerky right now. Unfortunately, I want to get one of those pets, the wolf one specifically, but oh well, what can you do? But it's one of those things that it baffles me how a company that can make multi-billions of dollars can still be considered, oh shoot, I don't have a gun. Another thing, I will be spawning stuff in because I don't think you guys want to sit here and just watch me wait for things to get crafted up. So if it's needed for something I'm trying to build to help speed things along and keep things running smoothly, I will spawn it in just so you guys can get to the actual thing I'm trying to create a little bit sooner so you don't have to wait. But back to what I was saying is the lack of communication is just, it is so ridiculous at this point. And even other much larger YouTubers have stated that there just is no communication unless you're lucky enough to go to a YouTube office, that you're not ever communicating with anyone from YouTube at any point in time. So when you have an issue, you figure it out yourself, or you just have to deal with it. That's just a sucky way to handle any problem you might have. At least I think. And take the editing application I'm using. When I was having a problem with my audio, I couldn't figure it out why I just couldn't make it work, no matter how much effort I was putting into making it work. It just did not want to. And I kept trying every setting I could think of, every setting I thought might make it work. But for the life of me, no matter what I did, after I edited my video and edited all the audio and then sent it over to the app to get rendered out, which was a different app, it just ended up cutting off the mic audio at a random point in each video I was creating, which obviously is a problem, especially if you want people to be able to hear what you're saying. So my thought process was poke around, Google a bit, Google some things, see if maybe other people had similar issues, and then found an immediate solution to it. But I didn't even know how to ask the question, because I didn't know exactly what was happening that was causing this issue. So I had to first figure out what was causing the issue, which obviously, it goes without saying, is not something that you can just easily do. If it's not something you've ever encountered before, you just don't know. It's all foreign to you, so other people might have the answer, but if you don't know how to ask the right question, you're never going to find the answer. Which sucks. It really does. But that's just how these systems work, apparently. So, what I ended up having to do was, eventually I made it to the forums for the editor that I'm using. And in doing so, I eventually ended up getting to talk to a person that helps develop that app. And in doing so, I was able to describe enough of the issues I was having in order for that developer to be able to give me a suggestion that came close enough to giving me enough information to be able to sort out what the problem was. It didn't fix it, but it helped me sort out what the problem was, and then I was able to relay that information back to the forums, and in turn, the developer said that that he might be able to talk to the team and get that into maybe the next update that they push out for their editor. That's pretty cool. That's awesome. That's what we need when it comes to YouTube. A place where we can communicate back and forth with the people that are working on the back end of things. But it just doesn't exist. And maybe you could say, well, that's probably because YouTube isn't profitable, and because they're not profitable, they can't afford to hire people that can do that. And okay, that's understandable. It is. But, in 2014, they made $4 billion. So saying they're not profitable isn't exactly the whole story. It's just part of it. Because they're shelling out billions to keep YouTube up and running, but they're also making billions. So it's just one of those weird things where it's worth keeping YouTube around, making that level of money. They're just not making enough to put out more than they're taking in. So they must be going through billions upon billions each year just to keep YouTube running, and that's all coming out of YouTube's pocket. Which, okay, that's understandable. You know, you think so much, only so much can be given to the project in order to keep it afloat. If it's not gonna turn a profit, it doesn't really have a leg to stand on. That is a massive amount of narco. I think I probably shouldn't have made that gun, and I probably should have made this one. Wow, I did not realize it was 7. Holy crap, 75 narco. Does that only create one bullet? That is insanely powerful, though. But back to what I was saying, it just ends up becoming this weird thing where there's just not enough communication, and there's too much PR and not enough of what everybody needs, basically. So, in order to fix it, YouTube has to first admit that they aren't, and has to admit that certain things are the issue. But they won't. Which, of course, goes without saying, is the problem. And I know I keep circling back around to YouTube needs to communicate better, but back to what I was saying about the forms for the editor that I was using, and still am. It's like the application I use to records in a certain hertz for the audio, and then my microphone records in a different one. And unfortunately, I cannot change what either app is recording in. That's what it records in, and there's nothing else I can do about that. Actually, I should probably take out my Rex. I'll just leave this little girl here, and I will go get my Rex. But because they had such an easy way to communicate, and I was able to get across the issues I was having, it made it so much easier to find out what the problem was that I was having. And yes, okay, to a certain extent, you can easily say that maybe you can't relate the two because they're two different companies and they're two different services. They're not exactly the same thing. But if I didn't figure out what the issue was that I was having with the disable victim, yeah, okay. If I couldn't figure out what the issue was that I was having with the audio, I would have never been able to find a workaround, and I would have had no content to put up on my channel. So, without everything working in some form of harmony, there will always be a chaotic disconnect. There needs to be some sort of way for us to communicate with the people that can actually fix these issues at YouTube. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to make a video about this, about how it needs to be addressed and it should be looked into, because it is something that I am discovering that has been issues for YouTubers for years to come. And it's not just one in particular, like, oh, it's just this or it's just that. It's multiple things that are just obviously a mess. Take the copyright claim system, for example, and having content IDing being part of that. That is grossly over abused, and it doesn't make sense to me why the people that are abusing it don't incur some form of punishment for doing so. The YouTuber that had the copyright claim or content ID claim put on them loses all that revenue, and they can't do anything about it. There's nothing at all they can do to fix that. There's nothing at all they can there's no one they can contact. There's just nothing. You just have to hope that YouTube, their automated system, decides in your favor soon. But they have up to 30 days to do so. Great. So for those 30 days, you just have to hope it gets fixed sooner? What if it doesn't? What do you do? The fact is, there's nothing you can do. You just have to deal with it. That's a problem, and something they should have fixed a long time ago. But it's not fixed, and it's not going to be anytime soon. Why? Why won't they deal with it? And there is no answer. Which brings me back to that post from the CEO of YouTube just saying, we're listening and we're working on helping and stuff. I can't remember exactly what she said, but basically she said that they're listening and willing to help, but I don't see where that actually is. How are they willing to help? And who are they listening to? Because it doesn't seem like they're listening to anybody. Especially after reading what a lot of people was saying to her. All these issues that they were saying existed for years and still protrude through the system. If you're listening, fix it. Don't just say you want to fix it. Do it. You're the CEO. You have that level of power. If something's an issue, you have the authority to tell the right people to get their ass in gear and make it happen. But she is just giving us PR speak. That's great. The PR speech. It helps us. How exactly? I don't see how it helps us at all. Maybe she's just saying that to calm down the people that are thinking that she just doesn't even care. Okay, that's possible. But you can't just talk. You gotta do. And she's not doing. To say that they're working on things but show absolutely no results. Whoops, almost killed myself there. Man. He whipped his tail up. Well, actually, she whipped her tail up pretty high. But it needs to be addressed. And it's not. And I am starving. So the question I ask is, where do we go to find solutions to our problems, to hopefully get the right answer that we're looking for when YouTube says, no, and you're just left struggling as to figure out why YouTube said no. It's been puzzling me for the past week. Where do we go? And that is inevitably why I ended up on the Let's Play Reddit, because I just didn't know where to go. But even after wandering around the Let's Play Reddit, it didn't help any, seeing as only one of my questions received any answer at all, which doesn't help me in any way, considering I've asked probably a good 4 or 5 questions there up on the Reddit, and almost every single time, without fail, the question I've asked had the comments ended up divulging or devolving into just bickering back and forth about either copyright and why it needs to be fixed, or why you just have to deal with it, or it ends up with people just bickering back and forth, and then people just stop commenting, and I can't get an answer as to what I was trying to find the answer to. Yeah. What do you do? And that's, I guess that's an okay place to leave it, since I don't really have much more to say on the topic, but the question is, that I will pose to anybody watching, is where do you go when YouTube says no, and everybody that you're asking why YouTube said no, to find out what that why is, where do you go to find that answer? Who do you ask? What place do you go to get that information, since YouTube does not want to tell you? It's frustrating, and it's something that I am quite puzzled on. But yeah, hopefully you found this episode somewhat enjoyable. Hopefully it gets you guys commenting down below. Talk amongst yourselves. Where do you go to find out the answer when YouTube says no and nobody wants to help you figure out what the right answer is, and you can't figure out what you did wrong? Where do you guys go to get your information? Definitely let me know down in the comments below. I am genuinely interested. And I hope you guys have a good one. I'll catch you in the next episode. Later.